Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
What's something a toxic coworker did that made the whole office go silent? We were in the women's bathroom in the morning and a coworker walked in after extended maternity leave. Everyone greeted her and asked her how her baby was. She was smiling at first, but as soon as we mentioned her baby, her face fell. She went a bit pale. She said it died. Before anyone could say anything, another woman right in front of her replied with, "My baby is gorgeous, she's just 4 months and she laughs beautifully." Good Lord, I'm horrible at reading the room and even I know enough to keep my mouth shut. The lady who lost her baby has a heart of gold. She put a smile on her face and started polite inquiries after the other woman's baby. I, on the other hand, stood there at an utter loss for words. Ian, my wife, lost her first pregnancy just after we had started telling people. She lost it on Thursday. Monday I go into work and my coworker Mike walks up to me, slaps me on the back and goes, "So I hear you're going to be a dad." He got quite real quick when he saw the look on my face. But here's the thing, he didn't bring it back up. All he said was, "Hey, if you need or want to talk about it, I'm here." That's how you handle it. You don't rub your healthy baby in the face of the grieving mother. One coworker's father had had a stroke. This happened on a Thursday when we were pretty busy. The next week, another coworker asked if the father was going to have a stroke every Thursday as it was really disruptive to the workflow. Just wow, it was pretty awful. First coworker started crying. Second coworker was fired a few weeks later. Reminds me of the time a new VP for our department said, "Wow, that's annoying, huh?" when one of our coworkers' grandma passed and she had to go to her funeral. Some people are just wired incorrectly, I guess. Had a boss tell me, "Must be nice to have grandparents at all," when my grandpa died. I was in my early 20s and she was in her 50s. Yay, we're on different ends of the timeline here, woman. I worked in corporate marketing, sales. We worked on commission based on marketing campaigns that we created. Last year we got a new boss who decided to restructure our commission, effectively cutting our pay by about 25 to 30%. Morale became quite low. A month after this happened, she called us all into a meeting. She then showed us a chart for the past year where we had almost tripled profits for the company. This was met with stunned silence. "Hey guys," she said, "where's the enthusiasm? Aren't you happy with these numbers?" Flat, tone-deaf silence. The outrage was palpable. I wanted to say something, as I'm sure others did, but I didn't. I just found a different job a few months later. Edit, to be clear, the pay cut had not gone into effect yet at the time of the meeting, and the charts reflected the past year. So we tripled profits for them and the reward was a pay cut. The pay cut did not influence the profits. That was all us. Tone-deaf Cheryl. We've all met her. She's the epitome of the Office Space quote about cutting workers just so the earnings go up 1/4 of a point. Fuck off. Even if I owned company stock, my smidge of earnings doesn't come close to my actual paycheck earnings that I appreciate much more. Yeah, I wanted so badly to say right then and there, "How dare you come in here and show us how we tripled our department's profit after you cut our pay. And you expect us to be excited about this? Are you stupid?" But I didn't want any weird repercussions and didn't have another job lined up at the time. At the first department meeting following my mother's death, our boss read through the minutes from the last meeting. Then she paused and added, "Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Lisa's mom died last week." Okay, first agenda item. Usually at my workplace, if a coworker's family member died, everyone was free to go to the funeral if they chose. Owner made this rule. We get a new department supervisor. When my mom passed away, unbeknownst to me, he sent out an email to my coworkers stating that my mom's funeral was going to be a family-only private affair. So none of my coworkers came to my mom's funeral. Some of these people were very good friends of mine and I was very hurt by that. When I got back to work after a few days off, that's when I found out our new supervisor had done this. This is just one of many things this asshole did. Fuck you, Alan, forever. Exclamation mark. Me and the homies all hate Alan. That's literally worse than not mentioning it at all. When my dad died, work got me a card, and people wrote appropriately human things in it like, "My condolences," or "Best wishes," or "I'm so sorry." The boss just wrote his name. I'm pretty sure that guy was a robot. Coworker lost his elderly mom and dad in the same week, one expected soon anyway, one not so expected. Took a couple of weeks off compassionate leave to organize everything and grieve. The timing was horrendous for the team, but these things aren't exactly scheduled in, are they? Manager moaned, "But it is what it is. Sorry for your loss and let us know if you need anything," is the only correct response. On his return, toxic manager commented in his first meeting back to work that both parents going in the same week was convenient because he wouldn't need more time off in the near future, leaving us in the shit. This is the same manager who a few months later told an employee to maybe give up trying when she took a week off following her third miscarriage. moaning she had time off for the first 2. He was let go shortly after. Because this is just 2 examples of how toxic he was. Dude, people don't freak out at shitty managers enough. I'm in an office now, but framed houses and dealt with construction workers for 15 years. If I heard any of this or the other stuff posted in the thread by others, I'd be losing my shit on them and dragging it up the chain as far as possible. There is such a thing as too much nice. He made a flippant comment about a coworker just being fat all along, less than a month after she had a miscarriage. HR got involved. I hope he got kicked out. Administrative leave, in the first instance. I moved on around 3 months later, but never interacted with him again. Is out some kind of slang for in the nuts that you young kids are using these days? If that's the case, I too hope he got kicked out. You just reminded me. It was just me and my store manager in the store, but it was Super Bowl Sunday and the incoming mod called saying she was actively miscarrying and needed to go to the hospital instead of, to work. Store manager was currently pregnant after a loss and called the other manager crying to tell him he needed to come in. This man's entire reply was, I don't see why I have to mess up my Super Bowl plans because other manager is having vagina problems. Quote, you are right, you don't have to come in. Ever. Enjoy the Super Bowl in your life. Supervisor stormed into break room while everyone was having a 15-minute coffee break. Told everyone off for taking a break and talking too loudly. If that's not bad enough, we had a part-time, casual employee who would come in to do a specific task when needed. Sometimes she'd be there 2 to 3 days a week, sometimes we wouldn't see her for a few weeks, all depending on demand. She showed up about 2 minutes before the boss came and freaked out. During the freak out the boss singled her out, saying that everyone had so much free time to take coffee breaks then we probably didn't need her to come in on a casual basis and that she should look for another job. Everyone went silent, dispersed from the break room. A few minutes later the part-time, casual lady held back tears as she went into his office to give him her time card for the previous week. No one was upset when that supervisor got transferred. Crazy how you can go absolutely ballistic at work, crash out, and not get fired. A principal in my district will, as retaliation, move teachers at his elementary school from the preferred teaching position, the one they have all their practical experience and accrued resources in, to a position they are certificated to teach but have no practical experience in. It's not that the previous position no longer exists, he either hires a new teacher or rewards a favored teacher by giving them the position, thereby ostracizing them from other staff. He did it again this year. The same day the news went through the district, I got an email from a non-district teacher advocate publication titled, Why Do So Many Toxic Principals Fail Upward? That talked about the phenomenon of principals and admin engaging in bullying, retaliation, and sexual harassment toward employees, and, in some cases, even students, only for them to be transferred elsewhere in the district when their behavior grew so egregious it could no longer be ignored. Basically, the article said the same thing is happening in education that has happened in police departments and with countless other employers. The sector is responsible for investigating itself. There is no independent community investigatory panel they must submit concerns to. And, of course, for the management class, HR prefers transfers over accountability. A transfer is simple, move the offender to a different department, hope they're out of sight, out of mind. Accountability means paperwork as contracts are terminated, jobs are posted, and potential candidates are vetted and interviewed and eventually hired. Accountability means explanations to the public. Accountability means potential lawsuits. Accountability is expensive, time-consuming, and embarrassing, especially the longer they turn a blind eye to the toxic asset. So toxic managers in every field fail upward because they suck so bad that nobody wants to work with them, but HR doesn't want the black eye that comes with admitting they hired and maintained a toxic asset. Bro, one day I came to work to see caution tape around the door of the women's washroom on my floor, call center, 500 plus employees in 4 floors. I inquired with a manager and they just shook their head and said, nope. A week went by, more tape on the door. Now I started sleuthing. I had heard something nasty was happening in the women's washroom. A day or 2 later a female coworker walked fast past me, you could feel anger radiating off of her. On a smoke break I inquired. She shut down and went inside. The next morning I get into the elevator to go to my floor. The female janitor is in there with lots of cleaning supplies. I inquire. She had no filter and says, some dumb bitch is smearing her shit all over the walls, mirror, writing stuff with their shit. I almost took a sick day but I knew I needed to see this go down. We all had access to the employee schedules. We could see who was in which day. Half of the workforce was off the hook for being male. As the days went on, we started essentially playing Poop Bandit, guess who, like. Does your Poop Bandit wear a hat? No. Does your Poop Bandit have blonde hair? No. Clack 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 clack. Within a week, I saw tech employees moving a CCTV camera from one of the front doors to install right outside the women's washroom. Management was playing guess who also. Actual weeks went by, random attacks here and there. The poop bandit could hear the dogs closing in. She started to apply tactics to her drops that honestly impress me. One day a woman I know also came barreling out of the washroom, red in the face. I inquired with her. She told me the poop bandit was now dropping fucking time delays. She had put a handful of her own shit in between stacks of paper towel in the dispenser. It could have been there for hours or days, who knows, but this girl pulled out a paper towel and handful of cold shit landed in her hand. Management was crossing off names but they weren't getting as far as they wanted. Myself and my two hilarious coworkers were pulled aside. We were asked for our guess who info since we had been doing that longer than management. We forwarded the lists. At this point I had a very strong idea of who was doing this, but management, rightfully, told me to keep it to myself or management. I didn't snitch. I wanted this madness to continue if I'm being honest. One day we are all working and we see police come in. Work shuts the fuck down. Nobody is doing anything but standing and staring. I see my candidate get pulled into an office. The door closes and the work floor explodes in applause, laughter and a discernible relief swept over the office. We saw her get walked out of the office. Some hours later we go outside for a smoke break. She is across the street stopping every coworker coming to, leaving work that it wasn't her. She would never. It was absolutely proven to be her. After that weekend I approached some people to see if they would donate so we could buy the only female janitor some coffee and restaurant gift cards. She deserves a lot more than that. Thank you for reading so far about the miscreant my job deemed, the poop bandit. Be well. So what was her undoubtedly unhinged reason for doing this? Was she insane? Or did she hate the job and people so much that she thought this was a reasonable way to behave? Thanks for asking. It's actually quite interesting but does take away from the initial story, which is kinda gross, funny. She had no idea she was doing it. It's a facet of a number of flavors of mental illness, eating and or smearing their own feces. From Google, in certain mental health conditions, individuals may exhibit behaviors related to fecal matter, such as coprophagia, consuming feces, or fecal smearing. These behaviors can be associated with conditions like schizophrenia, obsessive-compulsive disorder, anxiety, autism, and depression. In addition, there is ongoing research exploring the link between gut bacteria and mental illness, with some studies investigating the potential of fecal microbiota transplantation, FMT, as a treatment for conditions like major depressive disorder. The story is rich and worth telling. With that said, I do feel for the woman. She is mentally ill, not a vindictive sicko.